Okay, 7.2.1, what is the missing number? Today we're going to be finding missing information in proportional relationships. So remember that proportional, what we're talking about are equal ratios. And lately we've been writing ratios as fractions. All right, so let me give you an example. One half is equal to 2/4, right? If I have 2 cookies and I give you one of them, I give you half of the cookies that I have. If I had 4 cookies and I gave you 2 of them, I also gave you half of the cookies that I have. So they're equal ratios, they're proportional. Okay? So 7-96. In chapter 4, Casey was trying to figure out how many pounds of Havarti cheese she could buy for $10. Knowing that 3 pounds costs $7.50, she wrote equivalent ratios below. All right, so let's write this down. 3 pounds for $7.50 is equal to X over $10. Okay? So it says, work with your team to brainstorm a list of all methods that you can think of that Casey could use to find the information she's missing. Be prepared to share your ideas with the rest of the class. Okay? We'll go over multiple methods, but tell me what you would do to solve for X. First thing we need to do before that is recognize, what are we solving for, right? So X, we're talking about the number of pounds, LBS, pounds of cheese you can get with $10, right? So then estimating in your mind how much cheese you can get. If you can get 3 pounds for $7.50, how many pounds can you get for $10, right? So if it's less than 3 pounds, then you should be thinking, oh, I need to recalculate this. If you get something upwards to like 30 pounds, then you're also thinking, that's a lot of cheese. I should probably recalculate. Okay, so first question, tell me what method you would use to find X. What would you do? Okay, there's multiple ways. You can solve it as an equation, right? You can solve it as ratios. You could divide, right? So one method that you can do is to figure out, what do I multiply to get to 10? What do I multiply 750 to get to 10? And I would do the same thing. Multiply by that same number to get to 10, right? If we don't know what 750 times some number is equal to 10, what we could do is work backwards. So instead, I take 10, and I'm going to do this on my phone calculator, right? 10 divided by 750, and we figure out what our multiplier is. And that is 1.3 repeating. So this is 1.3 repeating. That's our multiplier. Okay, so 750 times 1.3 repeating is 10. 3 times 1 3/10 repeating will give you a number as well. Okay, and that will give you X. So there is one way. The other way you can do it is solve as an equation, right? Isolate the variable. Yeah, I think those are the 2 easiest ones. But if you guys have any other good suggestions, let me know, and then I will share it with the class. Okay. I don't know how to pronounce this name. Graham knows that he can earn $4.23 every half hour. He wanted to know how much money he can earn after 1 full week of work, so the 40 hours per week. He wrote the equivalent ratios below and quickly sees a way to find his answer. So let's write this down. 7-97. And we have the ratio $4.23 for every 1/2 hour is equal to X over 40 hours. And I want you guys to remember, the most important part is that you match up your units. So hours are on the bottom, money is on the top, right? Can you flip the fractions? Yes, but hours need to be on the same spot. So if you have hours on the top, hours go on the top. If you have money on the bottom, money stays on the bottom. If you have pounds on the top, then you stay pounds on the top, and you have to match up those ratios. Okay, what do you think Graham is doing? Grammy is doing, right? So then we solve the equation. The way that I would do this, right? So when you can do the multiplier, right? 1/2 hour times to 40 hours, this would be you multiply it. So let me go back. If you don't know, you would take 40 divided by 1/2. This will give you 80, right? That is your multiplier. So you need to multiply by 80 on both sides. Right? Here's my big 1, keeping it proportional, right? So keeping those ratios the same. There's my big 1. $4.23 times 80 will give you $338.40. So all I did was multiply by 80. Okay, so that's one way to do it. The other way you can do it is solving an equation, right? So if I were to rewrite this, 423 is equal to x over 40. This is over 1/2, right? I need to solve for x, right? So this is x divided by 40 parts. To just get x by itself, what do I need to do? I need to get rid of this dividing by 40. Right? So how do I get rid of it? I do the opposite. Instead of dividing by 40, I'm going to multiply by 40. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Okay? So then on the right-hand side, here is my big 1, right? And that leaves me with x. 40 over 40 gives me 1. That leaves me with x. On the left-hand side, I just need to use my calculator and do it, right? So I could take 40 times $4.23 divided by 1/2, right? Or you could use the decimal 5/10, and that will still give you the same answer, right? So this will give you $338.40. So it's 0.4, but it's money, so then you have to have that decimal at the end. Okay? He wants to know how long it will take him to earn $1,000, right? And solve an equation to help him figure it out. Okay? So moving on. For part C, I'm going to move it down here, and then we'll move all the other questions down. For part C, we want to know how long it'll take him to earn $1,000. So I have my rate. This is my rate, $4.23 for every half hour. Okay. Other way that I could do this, if I just multiply top and bottom by 2, that will give me the full hour. So my unit rate, right? We love that number. Okay. He wants to know how long it'll take him to earn $1,000. So how many hours? We don't know how many hours. That's why our X goes on the bottom. And then we want to earn $1,000. Okay. So same thing. We can solve this equation. I'm going to show you how we actually solve the equation part of this. Okay. So my X is on my denominator, right? And I need to get it out of my denominator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by X. And we can do that. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other. Here gives me a big 1, right? On the left-hand side, I'm just going to leave it for now. X times 423 over 1/2 hour equals 1,000. We learned from Miss Davidson's video that when we do this, we want to clear the denominators, right? We want to get rid of the denominator. So what else is in my denominator? I've got 1/2. So what am I going to do? I'm going to multiply both sides by 1/2. Right? Here is my big 1 again, right? So what did I do? I just multiplied the whole equation by both denominators step by step. This will leave me with, and this is where I'm going to organize it a little bit better, 423, and I have my X is equal to, what's half of 1,000? This will give me 500. Okay, now I have a one-step equation, right? What do I do to both sides? This is $4.23 times X, so I'm going to divide by 423. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other, right? Here again is my big 1, and that leaves me with X. On the right-hand side, 500 divided by $4.23 will give me 118 and 2/10, so this is about hours, right? Because we're looking at how many hours. So then when we get confused and we're like, oh, is it money? Is it hours? You look back at the question. I'll delete these. Right. And the question was, how long will it take him to earn $1,000? Right? So this is how many hours will it take him to earn $1,000? Okay? go to the next one. Okay, Shiloh knows that it takes 5 cups of flour to make 2 recipes of cookies. He has 13 cups of flour left in his cupboard. He wants to know how many recipes he can make. He wrote the equivalent ratios below, right? So let's write this down, 798. This is 5 cups for 2 recipes. We want to know for 13 cups, how many recipes can he make? The equation looked difficult to solve, so he decided to ask his friend Carolyn for help. If it takes 5 cups of flour to make 2 recipes, then it makes 2.5 cups of flour for each recipe. This is the multiplier. Can't you just use the multiplier to write an equation? Okay, so let me pause there, right? What they did was they found the unit rate, right? So 5 divided by 2, this will give me 2.5 cups for 1 recipe. Actually, let me show you like this. Still equal ratios, right? 5 cups for 2 recipes. They want to know the unit rate for 1 recipe, right? So what do? How do you go from 2 to 1? You divide it by 2. Whatever you do to the bottom, the denominator, you do it to the numerator to keep that big 1, right? You're not changing anything when you multiply by 1. You're not changing anything when you divide by 1, right? And 2 over 2 equals 1. So this will give you 2.5, right? 5 divided by 2 is 2.5 cups. There's your multiplier, okay? So can't you use the multiplier to write the equation? So Carolyn wrote the equation. F is cups of flour is equal to 2.5 R, where R is for the recipe. Okay, so as Carolyn wrote the equation below, she said, then I would solve this equation to find out the number of recipes. So what they have, what the information they gave us, right, is they use this 5 cups of flour to make 2 recipes of cookies. They use that to find the unit rate. Okay, then it's 13 cups. That's the next piece of information. So all you have to do is plug it in and solve. Okay, so comparing their equations for part A, it says part A, compare Shiloh and Carolyn's equations. Are they correct? Why or not? Why not? Okay, so the first thing we can do is this is Carolyn's equation. We can double check it, right? We can double check it with the information that they gave us. So if we were to check it, 5 cups of flour equals 2.5 cups, or sorry, 2.5, that's your multiplier, times your recipe, that's 2 recipes, right? Does this check out? What's 2.5 times 2? That will give us 5. Does 5 equal 5? Yes. So that means that both equations, so far, they check out, right? Which one is the easiest to solve, right? This is an opinion. So do you think the equation's easier to solve, or do you think the proportion is easier to solve? We're going to do both, okay? Because I need you guys to know how to do this. Okay, so we've got Shiloh over here. Shiloh. Here's his proportion that he's going to solve. So 5 cups for 2 recipes equals 13 cups for X recipes, right? Remember the previous lessons, we clear out our denominators. How do we do that? We multiply both sides by both of them, right? So here, multiply by X to get X out of the denominator. Here's your big 1. Bring everything down, right? We make big 1s, we make big 0s, we bring everything else down. I've got 5 cups over 2 recipes. This is times X equals 13 cups, right? What do I do next? I still have a denominator. I'm going to multiply both sides by 2, right? So here now is my big 1, and I bring everything else down. 5 cups times X equals 13 cups times 2 is 26, right? Now what do? 5 times X, 5 sets of X. If you remember, this is like our 5 sets of X is equal to our 26 little ones, right? And so on, okay? So what do? I need to divide by 5 on both sides. Right? Or I'll show you guys like this. This is the one that I like. 5 x's, this all equals 26. So how much does each one equal? You divide by 5. Okay. Big one here on the left-hand side. Bringing down x. On the right-hand side, I have 26 divided by 5. This will give me 5 2/10 recipes. Okay. So about 5 recipes. We look at Carolyn's method. Okay, so Carolyn's method is to use this equation. We have 13 is equal to 2.5 recipes, right? Same thing. I have 2.5 is equal to 13. So what do? I divide both sides by 2.5 to isolate my variable, to get r by itself. Right-hand side, 2.5 over 2.5 does equal 1, right? 5 over 5 equals 1. 10 over 10 equals 1. 2.5 over 2.5 equals 1. Bring everything else down. R equals, and then the same thing on the left-hand side. 13 divided by 2.5 is going to give you 5 2/10 recipes. Right. So now we're like, okay, both methods work. I'm getting the same answer, right? Which one's easier for you? Now, here's the thing. Carolyn, right, it's less work. You can see that there's less work that I wrote down, but writing that equation is where the tricky part is, right? Does your solution work in both Shiloh's and Carolyn's equations? Yes, because we just did both of them, okay? And for our last question, okay. Find the missing information in each set of equivalent ratios below using any method. Be sure that you record your process so that other people can see what you did. I mean, you're just going to enter your answers. Okay, so take a second. I actually want you to copy these problems down. So in your notebook, 7-99. And I want you don't have to write the instructions down, but I want you to test these questions out, right? Try them yourself, and then we'll go through them together. Okay. So here is my first one. So A is 2 over 15 equals x over 5. Now, I'm going to go with the easiest way to do this. So you can work on whatever method you want, right? And supposedly you're still supposed to get the same answers for all of them. Here, I need to recognize what would be the easiest way, right? Going from 15 to 5, super easy. Just divide by 3. Whatever I do in my denominator, I do to my numerator. Divided by 3. 2 divided by 3 will give me a fraction. I'm okay with fractions. I'm just going to leave it as 2 divided by 3. Or this will give you 6/10 repeating. Okay, so that's one when you can do it, right? For part B, x over 100 equals 7 over 8. Now, I look at this, I'm like, okay, going from 100 to 8, not the easiest way to do it. Going from 8 to 100, also still not easy, right? So for me, what I would do is I would solve it like an equation, right? I want to get x by itself. What is near the x? It's the 100 that I got to get rid of. So multiply both sides by 100. Here is my big one. That gives me my x by itself that I wanted to. On the right-hand side, I'm going to multiply. So this gives me 7 times 100 is 700. 8 times my 1 gives me 8. And then I would simplify my fraction. So let's do this. I can divide it by, let's try 2. 2 over 2. This gives me 350 over 4. I can divide again. 2 over 2. This gives me 175 over 2. Okay, so there is my my most simplified fraction, or this equals, as a decimal, 87 and a half. Okay, and I want you guys to notice, so like I'm changing all these fractions. Here, I'm dividing by 1 again, dividing by 1. So all I'm doing is simplifying my fraction. Okay, so in my mind, that's the easiest way. You might have used a different method. That's okay. Let's go to the next one. For C, this gives me 2/10 over 2 is equal to 1 over x, right? Again, I can go this way. Not the easiest thing to do, but doable, right? So if I don't know what to multiply by, I work backwards and divide, right? So if I take 1 divided by 2/10, this will give me 5. That's my multiplier. I need to multiply by 5. Whatever I do to one side, so that is not going that way anymore. I'm going this way. Whatever I do to my numerator, I do to my denominator, times 5. This will give me x equals 10. Right? So much simpler. If you have another method, of course, feel free to use that. And then for D, right? So I mainly, when I see variables in the denominator, that's when I don't like to do it as much, but it depends. If you don't have a calculator, it might be a little bit more difficult for D. Okay, last one, D. I've got y over 11 and 2/10 is equal to 4 over 7. Now, I look at this, I see I don't know what to multiply by. I could divide, or what I could do is on both sides, if I wanted to solve this like an equation, multiply both sides by the denominator, right? Previous lessons tell you to find the LCD. You can do that too. So big one on the left-hand side, bring it down, leaves it with y. Right-hand side, I just multiply, and I'm going to use my calculator. 4 times 11 and 2/10. Divide that by 7. And this will give me 6 and 4/10. Now, usually when we look at this, the answer, if it's, you can give an answer as a decimal if you look at the equation, right, in the start and you see that there's a decimal, right? If they start off with a fraction, then you kind of want to have an answer as a fraction. That's the general rule of thumb. Okay? I want you guys to notice what we did for B and for D, right? What did we do? We saw the denominator. We cleared that out. We multiplied both sides by 100, right? On this one, for D, we multiplied both sides by 11 and 2/10, clearing the denominator. If we look at Shiloh's method right here, what did we do? We multiply both sides by x to clear the denominator first, and then we multiply both sides by 2 to also get that denominator out, right? So one important thing is just working with whole numbers a lot easier than working with fractions, definitely. So to make that easier for ourselves, we multiply the whole equation, right? Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other by those denominators. Okay, that's it. Thank you.